Good morning, everyone. We are the Group 5, and our report is all about communication for various purposes. Next. I am Marijo Alvarez, and I'm going to report about the purposes of communication. Next slide. Learning outcome. Convey ideas through oral, audiovisual, and/or web-based presentations for different target audiences in local and global settings using appropriate registers. Number 2, create clear, coherent, and effective materials. Number 3, create ideas persuasively using appropriate language registers, tone, facial expressions, and gestures. Number 4, adapt awareness of audience and context in presenting ideas. Next slide. Our group will be tackled about number 1, purposes of communication. Number 2, public speaking. Number 3, interview. Next. Informative communication. The main purpose of informative or expository communication or writing is to simply convey information punctually. Its goals is to input new learning, enhance prior knowledge, confirm a concept, alleviate comprehension of an idea, or explain a process of procedure. In an informative communication, it is the giving information like what I'm doing right now. We are giving information to everyone to have some knowledge about something. Next. Tips in doing informative presentation. A. Stick to the facts. Always stick to the facts. Don't say any non. B. Avoid repetition. Avoid repetition so that it should be understand clearly. Make it clear, direct to the point. Next reporter, J. Rowena.
Good day. My report is the continuation of Ms. Alvarez's report. Let's go to persuasive communication. It is a pushing across an idea and convincing people or readers to support the idea you want to convey. Persuading others to understand what one is trying to communicate. And from the word convincing, you are able to convince people to believe or support your idea. There's an example that you can persuade people: TV commercial, periodical advertisement, and billboards. These three examples will lead to conveying people efficiently. Like in TV commercial, you are going to persuade people to purchase your product. Most of TV commercial, they try to communicate with people and convince them to buy the presenting product in television. So we have tips in doing a persuasive presentation. Next slide. Letter A, be objective but subjective, meaning to say you need to stick to the facts but with feelings to more effective. B, use your brain, not your mouth. Maybe in writing things like summaries or news articles, you should use your brain, but feel free to use your heart for arguments and opinion. C, cite. In doing persuasive presentation, citing your sources is important because it shows to your readers that you've done proper research by listing all the sources you use and to acknowledge who and where did it came from. Sa next slides na tayo. Argumentative communication. Here, tries to make listeners, readers believe that your idea is better based on the various reasons that you have at hand. It's logical and reason way demonstrate one's point of view, belief, conclusion, or position. Here in argumentative communication, you are expressing the facts and reasonable thoughts and ideas to better understand the listeners. Argumentative also used to justify and the standpoint in a certain context. So we have two examples, debate and meeting the advance. These two examples show argumentative communication like in debate. Person explaining reason or theory or explaining the facts that the listeners must be able to understand. So we have tips in doing an argumentative presentation. Next slide. A, it's a one-way debate. B, moves the readers to action. C, and with a punch, meaning to say in debate and it with satisfying and fulfilling reason and facts that the listener should be impressed. That's the end of my report. Let's proceed to the next reporters. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm the third reporter, and my topic is about public speaking. First, what is public speaking? Public speaking is communication has played a major role in education, government, and business. Words have the power to inform, persuade, educate, and even entertain. And the spoken word can be even more powerful than the right word in hands of the right speaker. Speaking Public speaking is a way of making our own ideas public, of sharing with other people and influencing other people. Next slides. Here are the some benefits speaking in public. First, improves confidence. Second, better research skills. Third, strong deductive skill. And last, ability to advocate for causes and more. Next slides. And according to Lucas 2015, there are three major differences between conversation and public speaking. First, public speaking is more highly structured. Second, public speaking requires more formal language. Third, public speaking requires a different method of delivery. Public speaking is especially important for businesses to market their offers. This allows them to get their message in front of potential customers. Salespeople and executive expected to have a good public speaking skills. Next.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jessica Oxon. So, we are here to discuss about the several ways of delivering a speech. We have definitely heard all of them, but may not be able to easily differentiate one by one. So, we are here to discuss it in a specific way for you to understand clearly. Next, please. So, the first one is manuscript speech. A manuscript speech implies reading a free writing speech word by word. It is when an already prepared script is read verbatim. The speaker makes the entire speech by referring to the printed document or as seen on the teleprompter. It is basically an easy method of oral communication. So, when we say manuscript speech, the speaker is reading the whole text in a printed document or even it is seen in teleprompter. Next slide, please. For example, a speech given by a congressman on a legislative bill under consideration, or another example is the newscaster. Isn't it that the newscaster is only reading the information in the teleprompter or in the printed document for her or for him to give the exact informations that she needed to tell to her audience? Or another example is a speech given at a wedding by a best man or during a funeral, or religious proclamations issued by any religious leader. Next, please. So we are also giving you an information about the advantages and disadvantages of the manuscript speech. The first advantages is exact repetition of the written words. Of course, if you are reading the speech, there's a big probability that you cannot encounter a mistake. And the text that you are reading is really exact on what you want to tell to your audience. The second one is concise and accurate information is conveyed, especially when talking about the contentious issues. If you are delivering a speech and you apply the manuscript speech, or it's really appropriate to use this type of a speech, it's very concise and accurate because, as I said a while back, you are reading the whole speech. So there is no reason for the speaker to forget some important lines. And it's best to use the manuscript speech, especially if you are you're telling about a contentious issues, because it's not good to have a mistake if you're informing your audience about an important issues. So next is the disadvantages. The first one is the speaker will have difficult maintaining eye contact with the audience to show warmth and sincerity. So it's hard for the speaker to have eye contact with your audience, especially if you're reading. Everyone knows that. Because if you are focusing on reading, it's hard to look to your audience. So in that way, the speaker cannot show her sincerity or the warmness for her audience. The next one is a manuscript speech can become boring if read out plainly without any effort of nonverbal communication with the audience. It's boring if the speaker is just reading the text without using nonverbal communication. This is one of the disadvantages of manuscript speech because the speaker need to focus on reading, so it's hard for them to use nonverbal communication, so it will be boring. Next, please. So the next one is impromptu speech. Impromptu speaking is the presentation of a short message without advanced preparation. Impromptu speeches often occur when someone is asked to say a few words or give a toast on a special occasion. So from the word without advanced preparation, the speaker is going to present a speech without any notice that he or she is going to present a speech. Mostly, this is just a short message. Next, please. For example, one of the group or the CEO of one company tell to her employer that they will be having a meeting. Then when upon the meeting is going on, the CEO asks one person to give insight or ideas about the topic that they're discussing. So it's already called an impromptu speech because she or he is going to give an ideas without notice that he is assigned to give an ideas. Another example is the interview of politicians, the US presidential debate, or even the panel discussion of TV channel. Next, please. So the advantages of this is shows how good an individual is at thinking for themselves on their feet. They will not have endless hours to practice and rehearse and cannot seek help or ideas from anyone. So in this kind of a speech, you can analyze your own capabilities and you will know how good you are and what are the things that you can do. Because doing impromptu speech is not that easy that you think. Why? Because you will have to practice there's a big probability that you will encounter mistakes, and it's hard for the speaker to give information in a detailed way or with a supporting evidence. And in this speech, it is more on opinion of the speaker or the ideas that she knows about the topic because she did not practice. Thank you. That's all. Si Bernard ang magre-report niyan. So, parang wala siya ngayon.
Let's proceed to nervous
So, hello everyone. So these are the guidelines on writing a speech based on Lucas, year 2015. Next, next slide. So first, focus on your topic. Writing a speech must have a goal and objectives. Focusing on one topic can help you write a good speech. Next slide. Second, develop your topic. If you already set a goal and objectives for your speech making into an actual speech is the next step. And the third step is organize your speech. So first, your introduction. Introduction is a brief introduction is enough. And second, the body, where you're going to show the main agenda of your speech. And third, your conclusion, your overall overview about your speech. Yun lang po.
So these are the 10 elements for a good delivery in a speech. First is volume. Volume is the perceived loudness of the speaker. Loudness is what the audience actually perceives, and it correlates with the physical strength. When you're speaking naturally without any amplification, you need to keep in mind the distance to be covered by your voice and adjust sound production accordingly. So these are the common speaking volume errors. So first, speaking too quietly. If your audience has to strain to to hear you, they will miss vital information if the problem continues. They will inevitably stop listening and do something less tiring like thinking about lunch or something. Speaking too loudly. If the average speaking volume is too high, your audience will feel as though you are shouting at them and you will almost certainly put them off, no matter how compelling your messages. So, third is speaking at a constant volume. Listen carefully to a natural conversation and you will hear plenty of variation in volume as we emphasize certain points in our tale. Yet, put somebody on a platform in front of a group of colleagues and that natural variations in loudness will often disappear. The physical tension when we feel when under pressure restrict our vocal range. Part 1 is allowing your volume to drop off at the end of each sentence. Some speakers develop the bad habit of letting their volume to drop off as they approach the end of each sentence. This practice means that their audience will miss critical information and will feel that the speaker lacks energy and conviction. So, second one is the speech. Pitch measures of how high or low your voice sounds. Monotone inflections and avoid dramatic. Monotone sounds boring and unemotional. Inflections help you maintain audience interest and get your message across. Avoid dramatic, upward shift in pitch or once on the final word of a sentence unless asking a question. As with other vocal qualities, there are natural variations among people's vocal pitch. Unlike rate and volume, there are more physiological limitations on the control we have over pitch. For example, males generally have lower pitch voices than females. Despite this limitation, each person still has the capability to intentionally change their pitch across a range large enough to engage an audience. Changing pitch is a good way to communicate enthusiasm and indicate emphasis or closure. In general, Our pitch goes up when we are discussing something exciting. Our pitch goes down slightly when we emphasize a serious or important point. Lowering pitch is also an effective way to signal transition between sections of your speech or the end of your speech, which cues your audience to applaud and avoid an awkward ending. So third one is rate. Rate refers to how fast or slow you speak. If you speak if you speak too fast, your your audience will your audience will not be able to absorb the information you present. If you speak too slowly, the audience may lose interest. The key is to vary your rate of speaking in a middle range, staying away from either extreme in order to keep your audience engaged. In general, a higher rate of speaking signals that a speaker is enthusiastic about his or her topic. Speaking slowly may lead the audience to infer that the speaker is interested, uninformed, or unprepared to present his or her topic. Fourth one is pause. Pause, a temporary stop in speech, used to add emphasis and meaning to selected phrases and sentences. Avoid the temptation to fill any silences with verbal pauses. They annoy listeners and hurt your credibility. Start each thought on a new line to remind yourself to pause at the end of a line. Fifth one is vocal variety. Vocal variety includes changes in your rate, volume, and pitch that can make you look more prepared, seem more credible, and be able to engage your audience better. Employing vocal variety is not something that takes natural ability or advanced skill training. It is something that beginning speakers can start working on immediately and everyone can accomplish. The key is to become aware of how you use your voice when you speak. And the best way to do this is to record yourself. We all use vocal variety naturally without thinking about it during our regular conversation, and many of us think that this tendency will translate over to our speaking voices. So next one is pronunciation. Pronunciation refers to speaking words correctly, including the proper sounds of the letter and the proper emphasis. Mispronouncing words, words can damage a speaker's credibility, especially when the correct pronunciation of a word is commonly known. In that case, using your knowledge of how things are typically pronounced, decide on a pronunciation that makes sense and confidently use it during your speech. Most people will not question it. In the event that someone does correctly on your pronunciation, thank him or her for correcting you and adjust your pronunciation. Next one is the articulation. Articulation refers to the clarity of sounds and words we produce. Poor articulation results when speakers do not speak clearly. If someone is articulate, they speak words clearly, and the speakers should strive to speak clearly. Unawareness and laziness are two common challenges to articulation. As with other aspects of our voice, many people are unaware that they regularly have errors in articulation. Next one is movement. Body movement is an aspect of public speaking that often gets ignored. Body movement is the largest physical gestures that you can make. It's bigger than gestures with your hands, face, or eyes. For this reason, any full body movement tends to immediately attract attention from your audience. To make your movements appear more natural, they time them to coincide with a key point you want to emphasize or a transitions between key points. Minimize other movements from the waist down when you are not purposely, purposefully moving for emphasis. Speakers sometimes tap or shuffle their feet, rock or shift their weight back and forth, keeping one leg to the other. Keeping both feet flat on the floor and skill will help avoid these distracting movements. Movements from the waist down should be purposefully used to emphasize a point or as a transition during a speech. Gestures. A gesture is a specific bodily movement that reinforces a verbal messages or conveys a particular thoughts or emotions. Although gestures may be made with the head, shoulders, or even the legs and feet, most are made with the hands and arms. Empathic gestures are the most common hand gestures we use, and they function to emphasize our verbal communication and often relate to the emotions we verbally communicate. Pointing with one finger or all the fingers straight out is the empathic gestures. We use descriptive gestures to indicate the number of something by counting with our fingers or the size, shape, or speed of something. Our hands and arms are often the most reliable and easy to use visual aids a speaker can have. So last one is the eye contact. The eyes can indicate interest, attention, and involvement with audience members, while failure to make eye contact can be interpreted as disinterest. Eye contact is a speaker's ability to have visual contact with everyone in the audience. Your audience should feel that you are speaking to them, not simply uttering main and supporting points. If you are new to public speaking, you may find it intimidating to look audience members in the eye. But if you keep about speakers you have seen who did not maintain eye contact, you will realize why this aspect of his speech delivery is important. Without eye contact, the audience begins to feel invisible and unimportant, as if the speaker is just speaking to hear her or his own voice. Eye contact lets your audience feel that your attention is on them, not solely on the cards in front of you. That's all. Thank you. Next reporter.
Iba yan be, slide mo. Hindi, iba din. Yung 6 ways. So, good morning everyone. I discuss you the 6 ways to turn nervousness from a negative force into a positive force. Lucas 20:15. A. Acquire speaking experience. So, seek acquire speaking experiences, take speech classes to give speeches. So you get experience and get used to do it. B. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Prepare, choose a topic that interests your audience. Keep in mind that each minute of your speech requires about 2 hours of work. C. Think positively. Rewords your negative thoughts to make them positive. For every negative thoughts, you must have a 5 positive thoughts. D. Use the power of visualization. Visualize yourself succeeding in giving your speech in order to control stage fright. E. Know that most nervousness is not visible. Most of the time, people do not notice that you are nervous unless you make it clear. F. Do not expect perfections. There is not a perfect speech or a perfect public speaker. Do not see your audience as a judge. If something goes wrong, then stay calm and pretend nothing happened. That's all. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bernard Sinawi Jr. My report for today is continue of report by Jessica Oxon. Several ways of delivering speech. First one, the memorized speech. Memorized speech is a speech that is recited from memory rather than read from cue card or using the assistant of notes. This method of speech delivery not come as highly recommended as others. Example of memory speech. As you can see in the example of memory speech, it is the act of memorizing the information in a speech and presenting it without using notes. Memorized speech have advantage and disadvantage. First one of advantage enables the speaker to maintain eye contact with the audience throughout the speech. This is a benefit to delivering a memory speech. This way, it doesn't require the speaker to carry notes card around the stage. Second one, being free of notes means that you can move freely around the stage and use your hand to make gesture. You can you can focus also on your audience, body language and facial expression. Next, disadvantage. Time is required for memorization and there is a risk of forgetting part of the speech during the delivery. Second one, the speech can sound memorized and lack of spontaneity, reducing the speaker's effectiveness. Next, the extemporaneous speech. Extemporaneous speaking is the presentation of a carefully planned and rehearsed speech, sp- spoken in a conversational manner using brief notes. Example of extemporaneous speech. Extemporaneous is something done or spoken with little or no preparation. Extemporaneous speech have advantage and disadvantage. First one advantage, it promote the livelihood that the speaker will be perceived as knowledgeable and credible. This is one of the best way to connect with them and keep them involved in the speech. Second one, your audience is likely to pay better attention to the message because it is engaging both verbally and non-verbally. Verbally and non-verbally communication is important because in public speaking helping to make speech clear and compelling to an audience. Disadvantage. It's required a great deal of preparation for both the verbal and the non-verbal components of the speech. Adequate preparation cannot be achieved the day before your schedule to speak.
Good morning, everyone. I am Abigail Balawin and I will be reporting about the characteristic and planning of an interview. So first of all, what is interview? Interview is an structured conversation between an interviewer and interviewee. So it's basically a transfer of information in both directions. Characteristics of an interview. A. Interviews always involve two parties. It is a traditional two-person interview format, sometimes called one-on-one interview. Directs questions and follow-ups. Letter B. Interviewing is always purposeful. For example, in a job interview, it shows the employer what you can do for them, and it gives you an opportunity to assess whether your qualifications and ambitions align with the position. An interview between a job interview is always purposeful. Letter C. There is focus on asking and answering questions. Focus gives you final opportunity to prove that you're a good fit by showing the interviewer that you're prepared for the interview. Next, planning an interview. Number 1, define the goal. The goal of an employer is to find out what you have to offer, your skills, abilities, and basic knowledge, while the goal of an interviewee is to get an offer of a job. Number 2, identify and analyze the other party or respondent. You should analyze if the interviewee is prepared and confident to answer your questions. Number 3, prepare a list of topics. You should prepare a list of topics before the interview because interviewers who don't prepare their questions beforehand are missing out on the chance to evaluate candidates effectively. Number 4, choose the best interview structure. The structure of your interview should start with introducing yourself to the candidate. Have the client give a brief introduction. Before diving into interview questions, prepare the candidate for the meeting. Number 5, consider possible questions like, tell me about yourself, where do you see yourself in 10 years, etc. is the common interview questions. Number 6, arrange the setting. This includes the venue or location, language used, and other external factors that set the overall tone of the interview. Thank you.